All right, Rams, for our second video, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I had another one recorded and it was blurry, so I am redoing it for you. Hopefully it helps. But before I do, I want to make for sure I fix a mistake that I didn't really catch on the last one here. I didn't read the question carefully. Alexander correctly answered 44 out of 50 questions on his geography test. What percent did he answer incorrectly? Well, what we found over here was what he got correct. So 88% was correct. That means 12% was incorrect because 88 plus 12 is 100, okay? Sorry about that. Okay, which number is 40% of 200? Okay, I'm going to zoom in here so hopefully you can see it pretty well. 40% of 200. Well, it gave me the percent, and the whole amount is 200. We want to know what number is equivalent to that part of 200. Okay, so when I do my strip diagram here, I'm going to put my 200 here. My 40% will be a little bit less than a half. So 40% goes up here on top, and we want to know what number is here. Okay, well, 50% of 200 would be 100, so it's going to be a little less than that. Now, my percent proportion, part over whole equals percent over 100, part over whole here. So my 100% goes here, my 40% goes on top, and my 200 is the whole amount. Okay, 200 is the whole amount that represents 100% of the whole number. So these look a little bit weird. Sometimes you can use the phrase is over of equals percent over 100. What number is, so that means that's the top one, and then of is the 200. But that's not really what I focus on. I look at 200 is the whole amount. We want to know what part of it. Okay, so this one is another one of those. You don't have to cross multiply and divide. You can use a scale factor here. 100 times 2, so 40 times 2 is 80. 80 is 40% of 200. That's a little bit less than half. Okay. All right, next one here. There are 240 students in the 6th grade. 60% of these students will be in athletics next year. What number of students? So 240 students make up the whole 6th grade. Okay, that's the 100% of the students. Want to know what number, what part of those students are going to be in athletics. We want to know the part. Okay, so 60% would be a little bit over a half here. So if I think about it, 50% of 240, so that's half of 240 would be 120. We're going to be a little bit more than 120. Okay, so my percent proportion, part over whole equals percent over 100. We know 60% is what we're working with. Now that 240, that was the whole 6th grade, not the part they're going to be in athletics. So 240 goes here. And then we would solve like this. Now, a couple of ways. We could look at scale factors. 60 doesn't go into 100 and 100 doesn't go into 240. So that doesn't work so well unless I wanted to simplify it. I could make it 6 over 10. Okay, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and do cross multiply and divide, okay? So 240 times 60. Okay, I have my 0. And then 6 times 0, 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Okay, so 14,400. But we divide by 100. So remember that rule from class today? Take the decimal, go 1, 2 places. So it is 144 students. Okay, make sure you give me the words. Tell me what that 144 represents, okay? Last problem here. Mr. LaMesa coaches the golf team. The team has 18 6th grade members, 12 7th grade members, and 10 8th grade members. What percent of the golf team are 7th graders? Ooh, that's an interesting one. Okay, so 7th graders would be 12 of them. Okay, so I'm looking at 12. But how many, it's asking me what percent, right? It's asking me what percent of all of them. So if I add them up, I'm going to go over here to my work for a second. I'm going to zoom out a bit, sorry. I'm going to add up the 18 6th graders and 12 7th graders and 10 8th graders. That gives me 40. There are 40 total students here, okay? So 40 students represent 100% here, okay? 12 of those. So half of 40 is 20. So this may be 20. This is probably 10. So my number is probably going to be along here. So 12 students is what percent? Okay? Does that make sense there? So now my percent proportion, my 100 always goes here. We don't know the percent, but we knew the whole amount of the golf team was 40 students, and the part that were 7th graders were these 12. Okay, so we can cross multiply and divide. 12 times 100 is 1,200, and then we divide by 40. I want to remind you of something here. 1,200 divided by 40. They both have a 0. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mark that out. That's like dividing them both by 10. So what I have is 120 divided by 4. 4 times 30 is 120. So it's 30 students. 7th grade students, actually. Nope, actually it was 30%. Sorry. The question said what percent? So 30%. Okay.